So South Africa's most uncompromisingly pro-business voice, Rob Herzov, just went nuclear into the multipolarity narrative that's been going on for a while. In this video, I'm going to show you how he does this in a lethal way. But if you stay with me all the way till my biblical reaction, we'll get to talk about something so important, because South Africa will prosper. You better believe it. You ready? All right. Press like and let's go. So this is what Rob Herzov said at the BizNews Conference.
People ask me, well, won't China invade Taiwan? Possibly, but unlikely. Here's why. Firstly, China's military has seen what America can do, and they've got Japan and the Philippines and South Korea sitting right there, American allies. Secondly, it's an all or nothing for China. But if they do invade, Taiwan semiconductor factories are equipped with high-tech self-destruction capabilities which render them inoperable. China cannot invade Taiwan and cease the semiconductors. It can't happen. But unlike oil fields, silicon isn't scarce. It's simply sand. So what really matters is the process, the talent, and the ecosystem. The engineers, the designers, the supply chains, the know-how. And who has that? America. China's economy would be hit hardest of all by an invasion in Taiwan. They can't afford it, even if they think they can make it happen. So what is happening? AI is driving military campaigns. Look at Iran. Russian and Chinese defense neutralized. So America's doctrine is no longer shock and awe. It's more like clap and withdraw. And it's a very powerful new doctrine, and it seems to be working. Oil built the 20th century. Silicon will shape the 21st century. And here's the final irony. Oil wealth empowered autocrats and kleptocrats. Kremlin, Iran, Venezuela. But silicon only thrives in free societies. So let me say it plainly. The multipolar fantasy is dying. Not because Russia, China, and Iran won't continue causing problems. They will. But they can't convert grievance into a superior order. BRICS is fundamentally weak. India is pulling out of BRICS. BRICS is no longer going to place America as the order. America is back. And let's bring it back to South Africa quickly. If there was an Olympic event for geopolitical idiocy, the ANC would be on the podium, probably with a gold medal. I mean, they've alienated friends. They've done deals with countries that bring us no value, and they've turned away America. And as you heard yesterday, America will bring us so much money, so much opportunity, and the international markets. Even Mteto Nyati said to me yesterday, they're idiots, the ANC. We should be pushing on an open door with America. Moronic. South Africa needs the West more than the West needs South Africa. And the ANC thinks it can offend the West without paying a price. Guess what? That's fantasy. And their headache is coming. And Russia can't save the ANC. China won't save the ANC. BRICS won't save the ANC. The ANC will be punished politically, economically, or both. So here's my final word. Trump and his allies are winning. Russia is weak. China is cracking. Iran has been sent back a century. And the fake news of BRICS taking over is not going to happen. America remains, by a large margin, the central power in the world system. And in this world, the ANC has chosen, with breathtaking stupidity, to cozy up to losers, tyrants, Islamists, and to antagonize the very civilization on which South Africa's civilization still depends. That is not foreign policy. That is vandalism with diplomatic credentials. The world is resetting. Trump's America is winning, and the ANC has pushed South Africa onto the losing side. It is time to face reality and footsack ANC.
Whoa, what a speech. You can go watch the full speech up here. So what that made me think about was a conversation that Rob Herzov had with Prince Mashele, that connects to how this affects the majority of voters in South Africa. The average South African is not really too invested in how well we do with our geopolitics, and it just goes across as an emotional reaction, but no one touched on it better than Thomas Mabaso of the 360 Experience. Listen to this.
If you gave me 2 billion tomorrow, let me tell you, I would remove the ANC in 2029. They would even get 10%. Give me that money, I'll show you how to do it.
But what would you do with it?
But then they took the money.
You build a structure.
Yeah, I would build a massive movement in South Africa, in every village. I would print T-shirts. I'll print 40 million T-shirts.
PM ones.
Yeah, 40 million T-shirts.
Get the right PM.
In South Africa, how many people do we have? 63 million, right?
Yeah.
Assuming adults are 40 million.
Say,
just make sure that every adult South African wears that T-shirt.
And by the way, I just wonder how Prince Mashele is planning to do that. I'm not saying this because Prince Mashele is a typical politician or he talks or things like these politicians. Everybody knows that Prince Mashele is nothing like these politicians. But I am just curious in how Prince Mashele is going to do that. I'm saying this, guys, because many people that have actually started political parties in this country, there is something that they have not addressed, which is this ideology of the ANC. Nobody has actually said that, guys, we are going to start a movement, and this movement is going to focus specifically on destroying this ideology of the ANC. Because people might actually say that the ANC is dying. But if you are rational and you can see things through, as much as the ANC is dying, the ideology is not dying. And this is what I mean. Many people did not vote for the ANC in 2024. But guess what? Those people voted for the MK party. And some of those people, they voted for the EFF. And we know it is a fact that there is no difference between the ANC, the EFF, and the MK party. So chances are, if the ANC dies, the MK party becomes big. If the ANC dies, the EFF becomes big. So when are we actually going to get people to address this issue of ideology of the ANC? Because this is one thing that actually needs to be addressed. You see, today we have so many political parties in this country, and the reason why many of these political parties have not been able to dethrone the ANC throughout the years is because they want to fight the ANC politically. And if you fight the ANC politically, you are not going to win. You are not going to win. Unless you actually have a movement that is going to go down to the grassroots and start having conversations with the people and confronting the people about them being so comfortable with the ANC destroying their lives. Until we actually have something like that, there will never be a change in this country. So anybody that actually wants to start anything that is going to disrupt the ANC, they have to be willing to go to the grassroots, to have conversations with the majority of the voters, which are poor black people, and convince these people or have an interaction with these people about the decisions that they have been making. And maybe, just maybe, you can actually get some.
We can deal with all the issues, but until you go for the ideology, you can't shift anything in South Africa. Because the problem is deeper, it's ideology. So, my biblical reaction. You know, in Daniel chapter 10, Daniel was mourning for 3 weeks. Then he was alone. A hand touched him. Then he said, "Fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart to understand and humbled yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I came because of your words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia," interesting right now with what's happening in Iran, "but the prince of the kingdom of Persia blocked me for 21 days. But Michael," that's the angel, the archangel Michael, one of the chief princes, he's called a prince too, "came to help me for I was left there with the kings of Persia. So, and came to understand what is to happen to your people in the latter days, for the vision is yet to come. Then he said, do you know why I have come to you? But now I will return to fight against the prince of Persia, and when I go out, behold, the prince of Greece will come. This was a vision discussing spiritual princes, spiritual kings, and obviously spiritual beings like Michael and the angel that's talking to him. What's interesting with this vision that Daniel had is that after the vision, the temple was then rebuilt. So something showed up in the physical. And these are obviously up there where Michael can fight, but we know in history, 200 years later, because I think about less than 50 years later, the temple was completed. But then 200 years later, the Macedonian Empire, Alexander the Great, overcame the Persian Empire in our physical history. And so what you see is that the visible goings on in geopolitics and obviously in politics represent spiritual goings on over a nation or nations or empires. And I think the issue of ideology is so downgraded. The issue of ideology is taken so for granted in our country, because ideology is very close to idolatry. Let me say that again. Ideology is very close to idolatry. I'm a man of faith, what some people would call a religious man. Not religious at all, but I'm a man of faith. And I know this. I don't see a difference between myself as a man of faith and the average South African when it comes to politics. What do I mean by this? Well, I mean, if you tell me I'm going to suffer for my faith, that's not going to make me change my faith. In fact, I'll wear that suffering like a badge of honor and consider it a privilege. Ideology is the same. When the ANC takes equality and shifts it to the highest representation in people's minds, what does that mean? It becomes a god. And you can't go to them and say, look, you are suffering for equality. It's a privilege and an honor to suffer for your idol. So what do you need to do? Well, you've got to get in and you've got to dismantle the doctrine into which they have been indoctrinated. Because until you do that, you can't tell them that you have no jobs, because they'll still defend the ANC. And if they don't defend the ANC, they'll run to the past ANC president and support them. And if it's not the past ANC president, they'll go to the past ANC Youth League president and support them, because you can't make me leave my faith by telling me I'm going to have to fast every now and then, or by telling me that some people are going to think I'm stupid because I believe in a God I've never seen. You can't change me with suffering, with struggle. In fact, you push me closer to my God. And this is what the ANC is doing. In fact, the ANC is hoping very hard for Donald Trump to do something very hard against South Africa. You realize this, that the people who don't like the ANC at all, as soon as the ANC brings up, Bozell said this, he said he doesn't care about our courts. Have you realized how everyone immediately unites and says, don't say this about our country? And all of them forget that the ANC running international relations is a stomping on our national vote, because suffering does not push people away from their idols. It pushes them closer to their idols. So the only way we can win the battle is we've got to deal with the ideology. Then when sober people go and fight politically, they could win. I'll even give you a bonus from Psalm 115. Our God is in the heavens. He does all that he pleases. Their idols are silver and gold, the work of human hands. They have mouths but do not speak, eyes but do not see. They have ears but do not hear, nose but do not smell. They have hands but do not feel, feet but do not walk. They can't even talk. Those who make them become like them, so do all who trust in them. See, ideology is literally like religion. What you do is you take certain things like the ANC's definition of justice. You take the ANC's definition of equality, which is equality of outcomes, not equality of opportunity. And then you elevate them so high that they determine right and wrong. They determine who is on the right, who is the in group and the out group. So I'll be called names because I'm on the out group, because I happen to have a biblical definition of justice, because I have happened to have a biblical definition of opportunity. It's also the same definition that every society that has prospered holds to. Now, you become an in crowd, out crowd, just like faith. But with this one, instead of God, at the top you put equality, struggle, history, apartheid. Then here's what happens. People will gladly suffer for their idol. And if you manage to make their idol apartheid, they will gladly suffer for apartheid. In other words, you can steal them blind for 5 years. All you've got to say 5 years later is apartheid, and they will vote for you, or they will just say, I vote for no one then, to protest against you. That's how people operate when they have an idol. So next time you hear ideology, just think idol. And so that's why we are doing so much that we do, not just sharing news with you, although that's important, but that's why we have the soft life, because through the soft life we are going to go right down to grassroots level and change minds. And that's why the soft life is written more kindly than I tend to deliver on the videos, because you don't go up to people who idolize something and just go, you're wrong. You're causing yourself to suffer. You don't care about your kids' future. That's not how you do it. We come very apologetically, very softly, because if you're gonna have someone to see what's going on, it needs the truth spoken in love. Because truth without kindness is brutality. Kindness without truth is compromise. And I believe in the soft life we've managed to balance both and speak truth in love. And so that's why I so greatly appreciate all our prosperity pledges. It means so much. I do see you. I could even call you by name. I see some of you who didn't even just go down to the bottom, click the link and just follow that process. But I see you actually take the time to walk to the bank and do it physically. This literally, I don't know what the English word for it is. What comes to my head as a Zulu boy is it breaks my heart. But Swati boy, Zulu speaker, it breaks my heart. It doesn't break my heart because that means it hurts, but it really touches our hearts. Some of you, I've watched you do that the last 2-3 months. I have to mention it on a video. That is just at another level. And that's why we're still here, and we're going to go all the way, and we're going to slash that ideology, piece by piece, reader by reader, home by home. And then we're going to get the books into the aspirant middle class homes. Every single aspirant middle class home will have a copy, and we appreciate that. And for you, if you've been following us and you want to be on this train, I welcome you. Go down to the bottom, click the link, and become a prosperity pledger, and let's make history together. So no man can serve two masters. Either he'll love the one or he'll hate the other, or he'll despise the one and honor the other. You can't serve God. And Karl Marx, let me say this: if you're a believer and you run with this very convincing, easy to fall for, pretending to be history, idolatry, just know you can't do both. What the ANC talks about is idolatry. It sounds like it's just history. There was apartheid, and then there was now, and then now we need this to do this, and social justice. It sounds nice, and I understand why people will fall for it. But my brother in Christ, it's idolatry. You can't do both. You can't be comrade Monday to Saturday and Christian on Sunday. One must die. One must be disrespected. One must be dishonored. One must determine your identity. One must determine where your thinking starts. One must determine what you think in the beginning is. Is in the beginning Genesis 1, or is in the beginning colonization and apartheid? You can't serve both. So let's make history together. Cheers.